Here we go. We're recording this presentation and we'll open up, we'll send a follow-up email with the link to the recording along with information on receiving PDPs, because you can receive a PDP for this session. So today we are pleased and honored to welcome Dr. Scott Solberg as our guest speaker. Dr. Solberg is a professor at Boston University Wheelock College of Education and Human Development. With over 50 peer-reviewed publications, 4 books, and over 30 keynote and invited plenary presentations, Dr. Solberg is internationally and nationally recognized for creating a new career development paradigm for K-12 schools that focuses on enabling youth to develop their true potential by helping them navigate into the learning pathways needed to pursue their personal life goals. This paradigm is best described in his book, Making School Relevant, with individualized learning plans, helping students create their own career and life goals, from Harvard Education Press, and his recommendations are being implemented in over 30 states as well as Singapore. Dr. Solberg consults regularly with federal, state, and district policy leaders, serves as vice president for research, the industry-led National Coalition for Career Development Center, co-directs the Boston University Center for Future Readiness, co-leads an international SEL research network, and serves in advisory roles with national organizations such as PBS Kids, CASEL, and IntelliSpark. Over the course of his career, Dr. Solberg has received over $10 million in funding, with his latest efforts focusing on supporting Boston Public Schools' adoption of ILPs and the launch of an annual research report showcasing the conditions of career readiness in the United States. So we thank you so much, Dr. Solberg, for being here and sharing your expertise with our audience.
All right, well, thank you. So I'm noticing we have a couple that we're looking at here, and we have a bunch of participants. Are they all able to speak, or how does that work?
Yes, so I need to unmute everybody.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So wanted to just get, I mean, we're small enough that we can have a quick conversation and report around. Just wanted to get a sense of what you were hoping to learn about today, and also to make it a little bit more interactive, because otherwise it's just Jen and I staring at each other, which is fine, but we do that all the time. We're on Zoom more often than not. So so John, I've got you first. Is there something you're hoping that we'll get today through this conversation? John? All right, well, I see Lori. Lori, you want to tell us, do you have some ideas for today? Are you able to come off mute?
I think you just have to click on your little microphone. I had to promote Lori to panelist because she was in order to talk.
Yeah, so maybe the chat then too.
Yep.
Yeah, John's still on mute as well. I don't know if they're able to get off. So Lori or John, are you able to come off mute? Oh, looks like Kevin and John both did. John, did you want to go give us some thoughts? We're not hearing you. So not sure, Jen.
Okay. They should. All right.
All right, well, let's use the chat box.
Yep,
or
let's use chat.
I also put in the Jamboard if you wanted to use that, but it's such a small group too, we can do the other. But some thoughts around things that you would like to get at today, that things you want to make sure we cover. Would love to hear about that. Also, it'd be great if you could tell us which schools you're from, organizations.
Oh, mute is freezing apparently.
Yeah.
Okay.
So John, early college programs, great. How early do you mean? Are you asking Kevin, how early do we do the MyCap work? Is that the idea? All right, working with middle school in the MyCap, fantastic. And we've got some activities for that as well. Hey, John, good to see you. At least I can see you and Lori. I don't can't go and get the full interaction, but that's all right. Any other thoughts? Lori Grafton, awesome. And you've all gone through the MyCap orientation from Grafton, right? Michelle, nice to see you too.
Hi.
Oh, good, we can hear you. Any topics today you're hoping we'll grab? I'm gonna pull up.
I typed into the chat, but I'm at the high school here, but I'm working with our middle school this year in planning the MyCap. So
Yeah.
just kind of figuring out what types of activities are age appropriate for them and kind of not too much all at once for the younger guys.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Let me see if I can get this to come up for us. I think I did it. It's loading. Yeah, so let's talk about that. And we also have early college, so we've got a full span from middle school all the way up, right? And I think when we talk about middle, we can start as low as 5th grade, by the way, initially. There are, and I have examples, if you want to see them, I can certainly put some in the chat, that go all the way down to kindergarten and up. So when we think about MyCap and this idea of career and academic planning, of course, we're not talking about what jobs they're going to be when they grow up. We're talking about the social emotional learning skills that they're developing and how those social emotional learning skills not only build better classrooms, but really start setting them up for the world of work. So it's a more complex dynamic. That's this new paradigm we're talking about. So let me see if I've got, oh, there we go. We'll skip that. I think one of the cool things as a frame is thinking about future readiness rather than the word career, right? So future ready is, are they ready for the next year at school? Are they ready for 5 years from now? Are they going to enter high school with a plan? Are they going to enter post-secondary life with a plan? Whether that's going directly to work, whether that's a certification, if that's a 2-year, 4-year, whatever it is, there's a plan. And so future ready is now this, we're using future ready in a sense of purpose as the primary terms rather than the word career, because career kind of has a lot of baggage, you know, in a lot of ways. So it could be baggage because because we associate with career and technical education, we feel that's too limiting. Career could be limited to 4-year colleges. That's as people go into the university, we don't want to be limited by that. And as well as there's a certain amount, when we talk about the world of work and occupations, there's a lot of important, exciting things that may not be associated with that word career. So we're kind of dropping it a bit. We're also framing with this 4th industrial revolution. Has anyone heard about this? Any thumbs up? You can use the reactions, I think. Is the reactions working? We can throw some thumbs up. What the 4th industrial revolution is doing is talking about human skills that we need. So think about the computer and technology taking over jobs. So there's a lot of jobs we don't need anymore if the computer can do it well. I remember when the accountant was like a huge job, and now it's a computerized job, right? And now we've got free online systems that can do a lot of that accounting. So as we start to see technology taking away jobs, the question is, well, what are they not taking away? Well, they're not taking away human skills. So empathy, compassion. Let me see if we got a list here. We got, we can get what we call the social emotional learning skills, right? That these are the skills to communicate effectively, to be able to get along with each other. We know these skills are the same ones that support mental health, right? The ability to give positive and get positive feedback as we're moving forward in time. So this human skills area and thinking about that becomes really important. Here's a list here from a colleague from Singapore, Crystal Lim, does a nice job of putting together some fancy language around it. But this one, empathy and compassion, keeps popping up in the literature as being one of the #1 skills. And think about how important that is during COVID, right? The ability to recognize we're all going through trauma, we're all going through difficulties, and supporting one another through it. It's an important human skill. Complex communication skills. The youth are going to be graduating into a world of work where they're working with people from all over the world. So complex communication could be cultural understanding. It could be patience with different linguistic skills. It could be figuring out how they're going to project manage in a way that they can all communicate effectively. There's just a whole bunch of things that go with complex communication that's really important. And then also this idea of being adaptable and resilient. I mean, this is something we hear about all the time. And I realized I spelled resiliency wrong. I've been doing this now for 3 years and I never noticed that I had misspelled that. That is a crack up. But at any rate, financial planning, we need them to make good decisions about their world and future based on how much money I'm going to make, how much debt I'm going to get into, trying to avoid debt. And then also personal branding and social capital, something that I think we can start talking about even as early as middle school, right? They're on social media. What are they projecting? And then by the time we get to the 10th grade, I'm going to be encouraging you all, this is the new innovation, to have all of our students by the end of 10th grade putting together a LinkedIn account, a professional portfolio that they can then use as a way of identifying who I am. But to do that, they need to be thinking about their brand. Those using Naviance, you have the what is it, the Strengths Finder? Is it the Strengths Finder? It's the whole Gallup poll looking at personality. We've got the RIASEC or the Holland codes. We have Myers-Briggs. We have other things we can use that basically says, who am I in this world of work? What are the contributions I bring to an organization? And helping you think about that, the kind of leadership qualities they have and how they express them in their interpersonal work is really powerful to start setting them up and thinking about their brand and how they're engaged. But the LinkedIn then provides that professional facing portfolio that can communicate all that. The key to the end of the day is all about teamwork. And this is what's being asked for in the fourth industrial revolution. Can you work in teams? We're doing this in our schools. They're working on projects together. You're pairing them up, working in groups. So we're getting there. The question is, can we now as the counselors and the career educators, can we help the youth gain a sense of the talent they're developing by working effectively in teams? So it's not the grade on the project we're focused on, it's the leadership, it's the technology skills, the organization planning. What is it that they're doing within these activities that we know are transferable to the world of work, and helping them kind of get credit for that. I'll pause there. Questions on that so far? Thoughts and questions? Use the chat, come off mute. Michelle, does it sound okay? All right, it's good so far. All right, so human skills is the first bucket we want to focus on. And we want our youth to start identifying what kind of human skills they're developing. I've got an activity I'll show you in a little bit that can help do that. And it's based on Castle's social emotional learning. So it's nice tight thing there. But the other is technology skills, right? And technology skills are really important. We think about how they work with, I was just talking with a person today who doesn't like using organizing things in Google, right? When we've got our storage facility, we've got all this stuff going on. Oh, I don't like doing that. Well, how are we going to communicate across teams if we don't have a place to put our work? So having some of these different technology strategies is really important for project management and engagement. And it's a set of skills in data science that's important. It's a set of skills when we talk about the career clusters and what are the technologies that you need to learn that are going to provide that added benefit. What we want our youth to do, even starting in middle school, is as they start looking at becoming future ready and they start seeing potential possibilities for themselves, what are the technical skills they're going to need to pursue those possibilities? A lot of those technical skills are generalizable, right? So by learning how to do project management, you're ready to be a teacher, you're ready to be in a business, you're ready to be doing all kinds of things, being an entrepreneur. Just having project management skills, and there are free certifications right now that they can go to do that, or learning how to do that, is an amazing set of skills that transfers widely. And so I think it's helping them connect to the technology skills as they go through. So Kevin had a question about LinkedIn as a key tool. I think so, Kevin, because someone talked about early college. Was that yours? Or John talked about early college programs. What we want to be focusing on is what are the certifications and training that our youth need in high school before they finish high school. So starting in middle, before they finish high school, that's going to make them employable, right? They can leave high school right now and they can get a high paying job. That's what we want them to be thinking about. And the reason for that is because in Massachusetts, as you probably all know, about 1/3 of our 9th graders are getting through post-secondary, 1/3. So that means 66% have to have another option because they're not going to finish. So if we can help them start seeing themselves as building talent and looking at what it is, what are the qualifications, accomplishments they need while they're in high school to be able to say, here's what I can do in the world, then we know we've set them up for success. And yes, most of them are going to then move into the post-secondary. And I think actually by doing this first step, they're going to be better at the post-secondary because they know they're accomplished. They have an identity that's successful. So what's happening with LinkedIn is Microsoft as well as Google have created online certifications that are free or low cost. Right now, the Microsoft LinkedIn ones are free until the end of December. And the students can go in, and adults, we can have our parents in there too, can go in, get these certifications. And then what they're doing on LinkedIn is LinkedIn, at least for the, they're telling me that for the Microsoft LinkedIn ones, it puts a badge up on the LinkedIn account, and they have businesses already looking at the LinkedIn profiles, looking for people with those skills. It's even gone as far as IBM taking off academic background off of the job requirements. They want to hear what you can do. What are the skills you have? And so lots of these businesses are now coming forward to saying, I'm not interested in your post-secondary degree. I'm interested in your post-secondary skills, in effect, right? What's the skills you've got developed? And so the LinkedIn account, from my standpoint, does two things. It immediately establishes that we're helping them become professionals, and we're giving them a professional facing portfolio. It's helping them now, starting in the rising 11th grade, to think about the additional skill sets, the jobs they're going to get, the work-based learning, the certifications they may go after, the early college certifications leading towards something, so that at the end they know they need something tangible to showcase on that portfolio about the skills that they're developing. So it is helping to build out that professional identity. And the third is, once they have it, you can't lose them, right? Now, when you try to figure out where have our graduates gone, we go on to LinkedIn and we start to see the history. How are they developing? How are they moving towards becoming this professional? So there are ways in which I think the LinkedIn serves us in a lot of ways. Now, Boston Public Schools is interested in this, but they've decided legally they want to have parent permission. They feel that 10th grade is too young. I think we all know our kids are doing a lot of social media right now, and there's nothing about LinkedIn that's really that dangerous in any way, but definitely look at your district to decide what they might want to do. I'm just a big fan of this. Down the road, and it's not here yet, hopefully it'll be here in a year, we may have an online system that will use artificial intelligence to analyze that LinkedIn account and their resume and help the youth really, really examine their skills and help them identify career pathways that align to those skills and the learning opportunities that we're talking about to continue pursuing those skills. So we have some solution strategies that are on the way. We just have to find the funding to get it in place here in Massachusetts, but we're getting the conversation started. So like I said, I think the LinkedIn really does help. And Kevin, if you have any comments or thoughts on that, certainly come off mute and let's chat about it, since I just gave a long lecture.
I think it was just that I don't have a LinkedIn account, and I sometimes get emails or I get notices from LinkedIn and some students that we've had in the past occasionally are there.
Yeah.
And I probably don't look at them as often as I should have. And I guess maybe if we were more in the business field and the education field, maybe we'd be looking more often or updating our information more often than we are.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's it. I just didn't know if it was one of those things that might, if you get students started on it early, it might, if it phases out and it disappears and gets replaced by something else, then you're kind of starting all over again. But you seem to think it's going to be around for a while. I
think it's going to be around for a while. It's done a nice job so far. And if there's something new that replaces it, because they know what this genre does, it'll be easier for them to then move to the next one. Sort of like once we learn how to use a spreadsheet, whether we use Excel or something else, we have a general idea of the concept of what we're trying to do, and it makes it easier to learn. It's one thing. The other thing I want to say is you have to think of LinkedIn also in two ways. One is it's like a professional facing Facebook. Now, I know there's some industries where I was over on the med school campus and they were telling me, oh no, it's just about finding jobs. It's like, no, it's not. That's how I advertise my workshops. That's how I explain my latest publication. That's how I share really important stuff in the DEI realm that's going on that I want people to hear about, and I send it out there, a newspaper article, things like that. It's a professional Facebook account. So from that perspective, it's very important, because what we're building is social capital. And so for our youth, especially our low-income youth, youth of color that have a limited social capital, they're going to start building, through the connections they make, a community of people who are going to be then listening, seeing what's happening, and reflecting and giving nice kudos and, oh, this is great stuff, as things happen. So there's no other way I can think of to help our youth build that social capital as quickly and in a professional way as a LinkedIn account. So yeah, I think there's some tremendous value going on. And so, Kevin, we're going to have a little, maybe Jen, we're going to have a LinkedIn PD session for our educators to help them all get their LinkedIn accounts going. But yeah, I think it is, that's just how I do it, Kevin. So when I send something out, I link it to my Twitter account as well. And so my Twitter and my LinkedIn send out to lots and lots of people around the world my latest session or something I'm doing, and it helps a lot. So it's good stuff.
I'll just pipe in here with a little LinkedIn fun fact that MEFA Pathway, actually one of our features in the Investigate Your Future feature, links directly to LinkedIn from that feature. So just yeah.
Now I want to slide ahead, and I didn't want to. Let me see if this will click it back. There we go. Whoop, I did it the wrong way still. I don't know why it's not letting me go backwards. It only goes one way. Try again. There we go. So if the human skills, right, we're not going to use the word soft skills anymore. When we think about human skills, we think about technology skills. The other thing we need within, and this is why even in 5th grade, we're not talking about careers. It's really about future management. It's about thinking about, how am I preparing for the future? So career management skills is sort of the word that's used, but it's really future planning and helping you start doing this. This is a really anxiety provoking photo, which I just lost again. Basically, this is what it looks like in their future. There's no pathway that's clear. Even if we work with the 16 career clusters, it doesn't tell us how to get anywhere. We have to then figure out the post-secondary pathways, and those might lead to it, and the job. It's craziness. So we really need to be helping you think about these different pathways. The solution strategy that I'm hoping to bring into Massachusetts will actually give them this. It will give them the different pathways that they can take from their skills, and it will show them the different learning opportunities for credentials, for community college, 4-year, everything else that lines up with those clusters. Right now, we don't have a solution doing this. So in our schools, we have to kind of help do that. So if we are doing career technical ed, we need to be thinking about helping them see what a healthcare pathway looks like and their options that they have as they start developing into those and things like that. So it's a challenge for us, because we have to manufacture and build this up. But without that, it's really hard to just get involved in a pathway or in a skill set or a particular area without seeing the future. So just want to highlight that we still have some things to work on. Thoughts on that? Anyone using ONET? Anyone? Michelle, you guys using ONET? The ONET system? I think you're there.
Oh, I'm trying to, it kept going on and off. I'm aware of it. We haven't been doing activities with our kids lately on
Right.
that.
What I want to do is just show you a really quick exercise that I think is really good for getting away from interest assessments and really focusing more on their skills. And then I have an actual full activity you can use that embeds this into it. But I just wanted to kind of demonstrate that. But anyone else, has anyone used the ONET system at all? Jody or Kevin, Lori, John, Whitney? All right, let me see if I can get over to it. So if you go in, it's just type in ONET, right? It's ONETO online. It just comes, it should just pop right up. And then what I'm going to have you do is just go into this advanced search. It's somewhat of a cumbersome process. Michelle, which online system does your school use? Did you say Naviance? Okay. So Naviance steals everything from, doesn't steal. They bring everything in from ONET. MEFA Pathway brings information in from ONET. So this is the universe set, most boring set in the world, right? This is why we thank goodness for MEFA Pathway. It's much more engaging and exciting. But without, so they put the bells and whistles, but none of them have this exciting feature. So you see that skills search button I'm pressing on. When you press on that, you have to go back up and press again, because again, it's not the most easy thing to use. But you get these really cool things. Now, I don't know what the hell any of these mean. I read this and I go, I'm a counseling psychologist. Does active listening reflect what I do? Does this look like, anyway, a little more complicated. So we broke this down in a lesson I'm going to show you in a little bit that has it in everyday youth language. But the idea is, rather than focusing on what do you want to be, rather than focusing on interest, let's just focus on what can you do, and have them start clicking some buttons. And I want you to go ahead and do that. So I'm hoping I know you're all keeping yourself off camera, but I'm hoping you're online. I'm just going to click in these first ones here, which are the basic skills, which a lot of our youth have right away, just even before we get started. You know, if they play Minecraft, they've got complex problem solving. Any of those video games they're playing, right? They have complex problem solving skills. If they are playing Minecraft, they're probably managing material resources, right? And if they're in a gaming environment, big one, they're probably managing personnel resources. Who's doing what? A lot of stuff going on, right? Coordination, instruction, negotiating, persuading, social service orientation, social perceptiveness is the big one. Lots of these skills our youth have already. What they don't know is the relevance of these skills to the world of work. And that's what this does. When you press the go button at the bottom, it's telling me that I have 500 occupations that match up with the basic skills that I put in. Now, all we're trying to do is to have our youth go, oh my gosh, I had no idea. That's the purpose of this. It's to get them to realize that they have something to invest in. These are emerging skills. Now, of course, they're still developing, that we know that. But we also know that they don't know why these skills are important to their lives, right? And now we can start to show them. Now, the job zone, which is the 5, this is the most advanced. So they can scroll down if they want, or they can stay there, which is great too. The 4s are going to be your need a bachelor's degree. The 3s are generally those you can get an early college degree or a 2-year college degree to get through, right? So you've got, let's see what I got here. So this is where we're matching with all 11. So a hydroelectric production manager, for example, right? And when they click on this, what they get is all the information about becoming a hydroelectric production manager. So again, same information that's in MEFA, but MEFA does a better job of organizing it. And so once they know they like hydroelectric production manager, I would switch them over to MEFA or Naviance or whatever you're using to do the exploration, if that makes sense. But all the information is here. It's just more boring. It's more flat. Once they get good at it and they know what they're looking for, this will be faster for them to do. So it's kind of cool for them to be thinking about, even starting in middle school, what are those future options? What are the courses and academic skills I need? What are the outside learning I need, right? Certifications and other training. So when I'm entering high school, I have a clear understanding that in my junior year, here's what I'm going to do. In my freshman year, here's what I'm going to do. So there's a full plan moving forward for how I'm going to be successful as I move forward into the future. Yes, they're going to change, but what they aren't changing is an understanding about how all this goes together. So what you see here on the outside is the 11 skills that match, and then there's 10 skills that match, and it just keeps going down the list. And again, the 4s and the 3s are probably where we're going to want to focus them. The 3s are really cool because again, they can start thinking about that right now. So we had a young woman who got excited about the health science pathway at her school, and as a sophomore, and as a junior, as she's getting ready for her junior year, went to the college to take to get a certification as a dietitian aide, so she could start working in the hospitals, which she did. Then she realized that if she wanted to continue working in health science, she had to take more math and science classes. So even though her freshman, sophomore year, she really wasn't doing anything, wasn't activated at all. Her junior, senior year, she took all the advanced courses plus 10 more credits of college and was able to get a full scholarship into a nursing program. Okay, so this idea that what we're doing in the middle school is we're helping build out that framework of how it works and the different things I need to be thinking and considering. And then as we start moving into the high school, and this comes back to John's earlier question about early college, this becomes critical as a way of helping them see that and really explore the pathways towards their future. And I think by early college, I'm also putting in their certifications. I'm thinking about not just early college, but what are the tangible skills you'll have at the end of high school that business and industry says, wow, I'm willing to pay you to do certain kinds of jobs. That's kind of what we're looking at, whether that's through early college or certifications. We're totally open for. But look at that, robotics technician. Anytime you have robot in the title, that's got to be great, right? And they can start exploring, and that robotics technician can lead towards other computer science degrees. So this can become the stepping stones towards that. So I'm going to pause there. Questions or thoughts about this kind of idea? So it's a different strategy to get started because it's based on self-exploration of their skills and then becoming aware of how those skills transfer across a wide range of opportunities. That's the process we're looking at with the MyCap. Now, if you're going to keep me talking like this, I've got like 2 or 3 more of these to do today. You have no idea what my Tuesday's like. I am going to run out of voice after this first hour. So we're going to have some conversation here to mix it up a little bit. Where did my PowerPoint go? There it is. Some thoughts or questions?
We had a question come into the chat.
Great.
Is there any connection between this data and labor needs by county or programs in 2-year colleges?
Absolutely. So what you do then, once we're here, I'm going to go to robotics because that was so cool. Can I find robotics again? Where to go? I lost my robotics. All right, let's do diagnostic medical sonographer because that looks cool. So what happens is down at the bottom, you have your you have credentials, so you can go out and find where you can get the training for this, and that gets you right to your 2-year colleges or other certifications. You know, what's nice here is it shows that half of them have an associate's degree or less, right, to be able to move into this career. And then when you come down to this at the bottom, you have employment trends. So you're able to select into Massachusetts, and it should give us also by county. Let's see. Yeah. So you have, so it has some Barnstable, the Boston area, Providence, Springfield, and it gives you a sense of where the salary wages are as you go through. And I like clicking on hourly because youth don't understand what salary means at an annual. So give them the hourly, and boy, does that get them going. When they see $42 an hour, they go, oh, you know, their eyes start spinning. And that's kind of what we're wanting. For the bright outlook, trying to see, I think there is a way to get more detailed information from here. But we are able to get, as I said, we are able to get information on, let's see if I got this. Let's see, we got that. Let me go back one more. Here we go. Let's see, projected job openings. There we go. So now we can look here and we can see the trends in Massachusetts. I think in MEFA pathway, it'll have the information by region within the state. I know that's available somewhere, but do you have it on yours, Jen?
No, not within specific region. It goes by state.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's as close as we get. But what's cool though, and I just want to say, I mean, it is awesome when we get them on this. And again, it will be easier to look for in the MEFA pathway because it basically talks in different language about these. But finding training options in Massachusetts means we're looking right away at the 2-year colleges and it's showing us which ones have it. So it's kind of cool. And it's just a matter of learning how to use this information. But as I said, once they have a career or something that looks exciting, some kind of occupation that they say, oh, I want to learn more about, then what we want to do is get back over to our online systems, of whether using Naviance, Zello, or MEFA Pathway, whatever you're using, the Mass CIS, and do the exploration there. Because that way you can save the occupation in your portfolio. You can't save it here. I just had a very tearful conversation with a counselor whose school left from Massachusetts that left their online system, and we're trying to figure out how to save things in their ONET. And it's like, no, you can't, which is why we don't use ONET for our portfolios. So kind of a bummer. Let me come back to this. Other questions? So this is a perfect example then of how MEFA Pathway looks so much more inviting. It's got detailed information on the different areas. It organizes it in a nicer way and pleasing, and that's what the online systems are about. And MEFA Pathway is kind of leading the way, I think, in the quality of this right now. Let's see, and then same thing, looking at skills. So you've got the list here, which comes from ONET. I don't know if you've all changed it, Jen, where it gives us the list of careers yet. I know that was something that we may have talked about for the future.
Yes, no, we will be updating this list where students can edit, so they can add the skills and not that aren't included on the list.
And then will it connect up to the occupations then too and showcase?
Well, the occupations, the details list does provide that, but I don't think it's going to connect. It will connect to the resume builder though.
Okay, good,
Yeah.
Good. All right, so this is brand new. You are the first presentation outside of Boston to see this. And what we've done is we've started to create some MyCap lessons that we've been tested down to the middle school. Okay, so they've been tested in the middle school and they go through high school. You can modify them. They're all open access. You can look at them and say, oh, I can do it better, then do it better. Just let us know, because we'd love to put a copy up for everyone else to get access to. We have some of them in Spanish as well. So we've been working with Sociedad Latina that's been helping, especially at the middle school level, but kind of breaking it into Spanish. So you have a bilingual component as well. The drive itself has all of it here, and the administrative guide, which is what we've just kind of tied everything together. So you've got one-stop shopping. Just kind of, we can go through the background and talks a little bit about it. We've also tried to show how the lessons align with CASEL's SEL work, as well as some culturally responsive practices. For those of you working with students with disabilities, we have it aligned with self-determination skills. So we've done some things on that. But what I want to do is show you this Who Am I lesson is one of the ones that we're really excited about. And the reason we're excited in part is because it uses CASEL's SEL skills that employers are asking for. So those human skills I talked about, it gives them a list. So here's a link here to the actual PowerPoint. Isn't that cool? Just a couple clicks and there you go, right to the lesson. Now, these were originally designed during COVID, so they were done in a synchronous online format. We've now created conversation pieces in the administrative guide to do this in a classroom. So you can still use the PowerPoint, but then you have classroom conversation pieces you can use. So let me give you an idea then of what we're looking at. So we've taken these skills that CASEL identified from employers, organized them not according to CASEL's framework. We organized them around, kind of what builds a better classroom. So how are you having a positive impact on the people you're working with? What communication skills do you have? How about listening? Are you dependable? Are you organized? And then what the students do is they just go through and they identify these and bring them over. Now we have a Nearpod example for these two. I'm not seeing it in this, but we are looking at a Nearpod thing where they can also vote on them. But the idea is, if I'm in a classroom environment, I'm probably going to use the whole sheet and have them circle these. But the idea is for them to decide what skills they have. What are the things I'm bringing to the table? So they're describing their narrative, if you will, their own personal narrative. And then they do it for each of the areas, talking about them, of course, because we want conversation with them about what these are like, how they're helpful. And now what's cool is when it's time for them to go develop their resume, this is taken from the Naviance piece, All of those skills they just had there become the qualifications section of their resume. And they're written in language that business is looking for. So they don't have to worry about the translation into that language. They're getting it right there. And it's already kind of giving them, and I like to do functional resumes, and that's what we teach them through our lessons, is building up a functional resume that's really showcasing who they are and what they have. And so that happens in lesson 2, they start building their resume out. But what they do in lesson 3, which is also fun, is they go back to ONET and they do exactly what we just discussed. But this time they're doing it now with these skills in mind. So they've reviewed the skills. So when they go into the ONET profile, what they're going to be looking at are clicking on the skill sets that they've identified from the list, and then clicking on the occupation. So the advanced skill search is what they're going to be using. So it's just a guided way of letting, one of the key themes that makes the MyCap different, a different paradigm, is that it's student driven. And the way we make it student driven is we give them voice and we give them power. And this is how we're doing it. We're letting them decide what they want to be looking at. So, so they go to the advanced, and it's got all the instructions then to go back to what you just did. So kind of cool in there. Another thing we have, those of you that are interested in the career clusters, we basically created 2 lessons. One that uses advanced CTE's little checklist for clusters. So they actually do it more as a conversation. They identify which clusters seem most interesting for themselves. Whoops, I don't need to do that. And then in the second lesson, you can actually go use the career cluster, and there's an interest tool that looks at career clusters, so you can do that as well. But the first one is designed to just let them, in their own voice, think about the clusters that they're most interested in. And then ONET lets them go and click on clusters as opposed to clicking on the skills, for example, so they can explore careers within those clusters. So trying to find a way for youth-driven, youth-guided, and youth voice throughout this whole process. Any reactions or thoughts?
I really like these lesson plans. I think they're awesome for kids, particularly younger kids trying to start the conversation about what their identity is.
Exactly, right.
Are these available yet?
They're right there. I just gave them to you. Yes, they're free.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. So let me.
I was looking online.
Oh, no,
Okay.
they're not. No, see, that's the secret. You got to come to this.
Okay.
They will be. We're getting them out. We're getting them out. We just literally just got this live this last week. So
Okay.
we're
Thank
excited
you.
about it. I'm going to put it in the chat box.
Okay.
Instead of just
Thank you so
sitting here
much.
teasing you the whole time. The last one I want to just highlight. I want to highlight all of them, but we don't have time to. But the last one I want to highlight is the REASSEC. Now, you've all done the interest profiler, which is the one I hate the most, by the way. How best to kill the whole engagement and career development than to have them take 180 items and then come out that says, oh, you should be a mortician, right? My daughter's still laughing at her best friend saying, hey, you're going to be a mortician because some interest assessment told me I would be. I mean, this is not the way we want to do this. So we found this guy in San Diego. I didn't find him. He's on all these TED Talks. He's really quite famous, but he's an administrator in San Diego. And starting in the 3rd grade, they basically have a narrative conversation about what the REASSEC code is, what the Holland type is about. And the REASSEC code is a realistic, investigative, artistic, social, enterprising, and conventional. And so we met with them to say, how do you do that, right? How do you create this? And he showed us some videos, and we've got them in the lesson that you can use. But basically, once the youth figure out what these types are, and they start to reflect on which ones that they believe they have, then they start organizing their conversations. As they analyze books, they're analyzing the characters according to their REASSEC code. And they're finding all this spontaneous way of framing the world using these types. Love that. What the interest profiler does is it skips all that. It has you take items that are aligned to the REASSEC code, but then just gives you an answer. It skips over the self-exploration, the understanding of the value of what this type is all about. So that's what we want to do. And then we can go over to ONET again, and we can just put in our REASSEC code that we believe we have and start exploring the world of work from there. So again, students in control, students guiding the process, before we go into any other formalized interest assessments. And I'm fine with that, but Whitney, I'm totally glad you picked it up. It's all about identity development, and we want youth developing their identity in some ways on their own terms, not letting these outside assessment tools tell them who they are, because they come back they're just not in depth, and they often don't reflect the character and the quality of what's going on with our youth. So we need to help them find their voice.
Right. And I also find that kids are more engaged if they start the process themselves and figure it out on their own, rather than somebody telling them this is how you should feel.
That's right. That's right. And the optimizing your learning was done because, we were all freaked out, and still are, about our youth being able to focus, given COVID and the trauma and all the chaos going on. Thinking about how to support them in recognizing their challenge, and then thinking about ways they can take some control of it over it, right? And so this optimizing your learning is all about them recognizing supports they might need, recognizing deep breathing, mindfulness, what are the strategies, trying them out, and then coming back and talking about what worked, and making this a conversation as a group, not just an individual type thing. So it is a tier 1 strategy that's trying to help us all recognize we're all working on stuff. And as educators, when you can model it and engage in it as well, and practice and come back and share what you're doing, then they realize that this is something we all do. So yes, starting this early, and this was done, my son was doing this in middle school when I saw it being done, and got permission to bring it up to the next level. And I'm just really excited about the impact. And it's been a big hit nationally, because I think it does hit on that SEL component around learning, but it's also trying to help youth see they can take some control, whatever limited control they may have in their lives. They can still be thinking strategically about getting focused on school. Let's see. And then the last one is personal roadmap, which, what I want them to be is thinking about how they're going to have a positive effect in the world. And if they're not angry right now, right, then they're not really breathing, because there's a lot to be angry about, whether it's global warming, whether it's this disease that's going through that's taking away my life, whatever the things are, it's all out there. And so what the personal roadmap does is gets them connected to the UN Sustainable Development Goals, for them to see that there's a whole international conversation going on these challenges, and which one do you want to jump into, and then helping them start setting some SMART goals as they start to think about how they might do that. And then starting to look at the different courses and different career options that might be aligned to supporting that as well. So kind of that mission, that personal mission type of thing, using that as a way of thinking about their future planning. So I'm excited about that. We have more to do. We have lots more we're going to be adding in, and we're going to make this is a community of practice now. We're basically looking for educators to say, I like it, here's one I want to put in for this. And then we want to look at it and start building out a bigger universe of lessons that educators are doing out there. So this is just this is our foundation that we're using, but we want to get you all involved in this. And I know Jonathan's been talking the whole time and hasn't let anyone get in edgewise, and Gloria too. But if there are any other comments, I'm teasing, of course. Any other comments from those of you on mute that want to jump off and say something, ask a question? Put something in the chat box. Great, thanks, Kevin.
Is there any thought about engaging parents? I think about the proportion of students that you say aren't going to finish high school.
Yeah.
And I think about engaging parents in the world of work / training, the 2-year colleges, the labor market. And when I think about the MyCap and the ILP, I think there's a place for parents. And I'm wondering if anybody's looking at that.
Totally. And so in the lessons, you'll see a parent connections or family connections section. So we're giving ideas for how they can connect the family in as we go through each of these lessons. And Jody, I would also say that our parents, not only do we need them to understand it for their students, many of our parents need it for themselves.
Yep.
And so I would like to see a parallel process going on, right? Students learn it in the classroom, go home and do it with your parents, right?
Right. Well, if the parents haven't been able to achieve something for themselves, it's hard for them to change their aspirations into realized expectations for their kids.
Exactly. So what I'm looking at, and that's why I look at it from the skills platform. I think a lot of times parents don't realize that the current skills they have high transferability too. And so if we can help lead that and do that as a webinar with our parents, or have our parents come in and have them bring their laptops or have laptops ready for them and have them walk through it, I think we can start to showcase some of that. But you're right, it is about helping them have higher aspirations. I'm working with PBS Kids, and they're starting to look at that for 3-year-olds on up, to start thinking about how can we help parents who may not have had those experiences have different aspirations and ideas for their children. So Jody, I totally agree with you. This is an area we need to be really intervening and manufacturing differently as we intervene with our family.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts?
There was a question that came in.
Oh, there you
could
go.
explain the difference between Mass CIS, MyCap.
Yeah.
I'll begin with those M's.
Yeah, all the M's. Yeah, thank you, Kevin. And I think when you putting that in, we have ONET, we've talked about Naviance, MEFA Pathway, Zello, we got all these different groups. So the MyCap is a process for helping us engage students in identifying their talent, really investigating themselves and learning about their skills, learning about the transferability of those skills so they start getting an expanded sense of potential and possibilities, and then coming up with the plans. You know, what are my post-secondary plans, my current academic plans, so they start seeing the relevance of their learning opportunities. That's the process. To do this, we have to have online tools, and that's the technology part. The Mass CIS, the MEFA Pathway, these are the technology tools that are needed to support the process. And what happens is we have a group activity going on where we have conversation, exploration, you see the lessons for that. Then it links into the online systems, and there's an e-portfolio that stores the artifacts as we're engaging with them on those, whether it's a resume or it's a list of occupations I'm interested in or post-secondary things I'm interested in. All that stuff gets stored in the portfolio. So when we think of MyCap, it's both. It's both the process as well as it's linking to the technology. So we think of these technologies as the instrument that's needed, that's necessary to make this work. And it's necessary because no one in this room and there's no one in the world who knows everything about all these occupations. There's so much detail, you know, even what post-secondary, which programs nearby, what all this stuff. So we're really needing to help educate our youth and our families in how to use these online systems well. What makes MEFA Pathway and the Mass CIS great is they're free. So Mass CIS is through our Mass Hire, so all our families, parents, everyone has access to it. MEFA Pathway is going to be free to all of our students, and families can connect into it as well. So that's why we kind of, you know, I have no problem coming out here to support. I generally stay agnostic to all the business elements, but when they're free access, I try to make sure we're aware of that because I think it's important for just making sure we can all get into these. So it's good stuff. Any other follow-up thoughts, Kevin, on that? All right, yeah, and it's one of the issues. Get everyone goes, oh, we're doing MEFA Pathway. It's like, well, you are, but that's the instrument. That's not the scope and sequence of learning, and that's the difference. What are the scope of learning objectives, and what's the activities that we're going to use to really help realize those objectives? And that's what we're doing with the full MyCap piece of it. So it's exciting. Now, the lessons you're looking at, we're done with Boston, so they're going to be Naviance heavy and ONET. But you can certainly flip it into MEFA Pathway if you're using MEFA Pathway or certainly the Mass CIS. So you can easily flip in and out of those. In time, we'll get those set up in that way. Takes time. All right, so I have another session at the top of this hour. So good, and a MyCap curriculum guide on the homepage, which is great too, that you all can look at. So I thank you. Thanks, Jen.
Thank you so much, Scott. This has been amazing, per usual. We appreciate your expertise, and we will follow up with to everyone with a copy of the recording, along with the link to the lesson plan page and the PDP information.
That's great.
So, yeah,
all right.
So thank you. Thanks
and
all for joining.
Maybe we'll get in person one day. Wouldn't that be nice?
That would
all
be
right,
nice.
We'll work on that. All right, everybody. Take care. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks so much.
All right. Bye-bye.